We're going to get started again. It is really our honor and pleasure to have Matthew Mewhorter all the way from Virginia here. He is a stage 2 colon cancer survivor. He was diagnosed at age 35 and created this amazing comic called Cancer Owl to help him navigate and cope with the cancer experience of a young patient. So he is an art-based licensed therapist. He lives in Northern Virginia with his wife, daughter, and 2 cats. And he's currently doing quite well from the cancer standpoint and has dedicated his life to really helping others use art and humor to cope. So without further ado, Matt.
I can't begin to tell you what an honor it is to be here today. Thank you, Dr. Ying, and thank you, the whole crew, Mary Brent, everybody. It's been such a warm welcome here. I have been absolutely floored at the warm welcome, the reception. It's been wonderful. I can't thank you guys enough. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Do want to remind you we have some live polls going up with some questions, and I'm going to check about midway through. So definitely check it out, including one of my questions. It's the most important of the day, of all the questions, is what is the greatest animal? So, you have a choice between owls, and other animals, right? So definitely key in. I'd love to, see some of your answers to some of your questions. I'll put a few up there so, I can be able to hear from you. And the other thing I'd like you to be able to do is if you have any just additional questions for me, I'm going to be doing a Q&A at the end of this, and I'd like to leave a little bit of room at the end of this talk to answer any questions you might have about me, about art, expression, therapy, comics, the whole bit, why am I 40 years old and still have this color blonde hair, want to know the secret, whatever, just be sure to let me know. So, and I will try my very best to get around to some of those questions. So, without further ado, let's talk about how to make an award-winning cancer comic. So, let's start here. I'm Matt. I look like this. But I draw myself like this. After being diagnosed with this. What is this, a hairball? Some sort of dust bunny from hell? No. Cancer. And look, we know it's cancer because he's wearing a fedora, right? I mean, that's, right. So, by the way, and heads up, and I've told some people yesterday this too, might take a few pot shots at hipsters, but hey, people call me a hipster too, so, it's all in good fun. So, bear with me. So, anyway, let's move on here. So, yep, this fella right here with his smug grin, cold black heart, and all right. I get it. I get the point. Got to move on here, getting off track. All right. We got to move on. So this is Cancer Owl. This is a comic that I created back in about 2015. It was actually created while I was in the hospital. I knew ahead of time that I wanted to create something from my experience, but it was really after my resection surgery that I decided, hey, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to express myself. But I don't want to get too far ahead here. I want to show you some things. The comic did really, really well. Better than I had anticipated. I really thought I was going to do a handful of these. In fact, I almost seemed to go out of my way to almost not make a big deal of the comic. And it took off. It went viral several times. It's been on the front page of Reddit, and it's been several times. It's been, HuffPost featured it. It's been featured on Bored Panda, and I've been in magazines, podcasts, and it even won an award. That's the Scopie Award. This is the greatest award ever. Forget the Oscars. Forget any of those things. If you get a Scopie Award, then, my God, you have met the pinnacle of achievement. I am not being sarcastic. I'm 100% serious about that. I am so happy with this award. I got to go down to Orlando and receive the award from the American College of Gastroenterology for impact with the comic. I'm like, you know, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a cartoonist. I'm like, yes, not only have I become a cartoonist, but I won a freaking award. And it's so cool. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. So we're going to, we'll go ahead and get into my story a little bit. We're going to talk about how do you go from being you, a regular average Joe, to making an award-winning cancer comic. Well, let's start with step one. Get cancer. I guess that
easy.
Right? Right, that's easy, right? I mean, enough said. Let's move on to step two. All right, so step two. We're going to move on now to the new normal. One of the things I say, I run a cancer group, support group back where I work at the practice I work at. And one of the things with the new normal is that it, we talk about not only do you have a new normal, but I like to offer that you also have new opportunities. And I saw Cancer Owl in making this comic as really an opportunity. So that's some of the questions that we ask in our group is we say, okay, I have this new normal. It kind of sucks, but also have new opportunities. What are the opportunities? And that is the other edge. And that's a question I like to pose to y'all. I'd like you to consider, what are the opportunities that I get, from this new normal? And that's really only a question that each of us individually can answer. So let me tell you about my new normal, how I got here. So this is me, about 6 months before I was diagnosed, holding my cute little kiddo. My wife, I was just running a wedding. I mean, and when I say running a wedding, I mean doing everything. My brother-in-law had nobody else doing anything. I literally was helping with DJing. I officiated the wedding. And I was just like fireball of energy, right? Like you wouldn't think, okay, 6 months from now, this guy is gonna, he's gonna be hurled headlong into cancer treatments. And yeah, I mean, I literally was doing everything to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh. I even did the food at the rehearsal dinner. I mean, I don't know, it was a one-man show. It's kind of crazy. So on November 4th, 2014 is when they found a mass. And it even surprised the doctor. They're telling me, and you guys are probably very familiar with this. Oh, it's classic colitis or it's classic IBS, and even the doctor is giving me all this material in order to prepare me for IBS. Nope, we found a mass. And the day after, I was like walking down the stairs and I was on the phone, just casually took a phone call. Oh, hi, this is Dr. So-and-so. Okay. Sorry to tell you it's cancer. And I'm like on the stairwell and almost like collapsed, like fell down. And it would be 2 months before I found out what my staging was, because at the time, my insurance didn't want to cover even a CAT scan. So I had no idea. So talk about new normal. I'm like, is this thing going to kill me in a few months? Am I at like the end game? I mean, what's going on? I had no idea what was going to happen. I'm like, is my daughter going to grow up and not even have a memory of me except for just seeing me in pictures? What is going to happen? So, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here. So, and then I had the very new normal of being able to share with people what it is like to start to tell people you have cancer, whether it be your family, whether it tell people at work. So, hi there. Long time no see. How have you been these days? I've been good, kind of good. Well, I've been better. I was diagnosed with rectal cancer. You'll be in my prayers. I think we can relate, right? I swear I felt like I was melting the face off of every person I shared the news with. And like just the look on their face. And in fact, my cancer group, I say, how many times did you get the look today? They're like, oh gosh. Like that look. And we are all able to do it too, though. When you tell people. Yeah. You guys are able to do it. You know the look. Yeah. And so, yep, that's the experience of telling people they had cancer. So I really decided this new normal, I was going to embrace it. I'm like, you know what? What are the opportunities? For me, I was like a big workaholic at the time. I didn't have a good work-life balance. I worked way too much. I was didn't have good self-care routine. So all that changed. So for me, my new normal also was taking care of myself. And when I came to the hospital, I mean, I was a real, for lack of a better way of putting it, I was a real wise ass. I mean, just as you can tell, as like the whole, the way I wanted to be able to approach my experience. I wanted to say, hey, this is my new normal. This is where you know, what are the opportunities here? So for me, it was an opportunity to start caring for myself because, quite honestly, I wasn't that great at it, like at all. I couldn't keep up with a decent exercise routine. I couldn't do any of those things um, very well. I mean, I was just overstressed, doing 4 jobs at once, and running from place to place, and even in my therapy appointments, like people waiting in the lobby, I'm like out of breath. I'm like, hey, are you ready? You know, and just so when I was diagnosed, I was like, finally, maybe people will get off my back, and maybe I can finally start to take care of myself. And so I even started getting therapy for myself. I started seeing, as a therapist, I was seeing a therapist. One of the best decisions I ever made in my entire life. And he got me on a road to caring for myself and learning how to use my voice and learning how to, that my voice mattered, and how do I get my voice out? How do I begin to express in healthy ways what I'm going through? So I got one of these suckers. How many? Show of hands. Some people rocking the bag. Nice. Awesome. All right. I no longer have a bag. It did get reversed. Um, but yeah, the photographer who took this is in downtown where I live. And he had this idea. He's like, dude, he's like, talk about hipster. He's like hipster supreme, like lion mane hair and everything. And he was like, dude, he's like, you should just go in the middle of the street and just lift your shirt up. I'm like, hell yeah. And then like, I live in small town Virginia, and then like it's people are out and about, and I'm in the middle of the day just like lifting my shirt up. It was the best, man. It was so good. So I wanted to speak a little bit about being a young adult with cancer, and for you. And I'm not an elderly folk, so I can't say this with certainty, but, mostly the people that attend my cancer group are elderly, and being able to hear from them, I see how our experience more as young adults is more unique in the sense of more of the elderly folk, many of them are already retired, and they're looking at things a little different. For us, and who are under 30, under 40, under 50, many of us starting our careers. For me, I had a 1-year-old daughter, and I was like, wow. I mean, everything was put on hold. Absolutely everything. It's very disruptive. So I said, as a young adult, your cancer diagnosis is a startling, disorienting, life-altering experience. And I just think it's important to acknowledge that. And Dr. Ng, handled that so well earlier, saying about the differences with your experience versus the experience of, again, maybe someone toward the end of their life, that they get that. And so, also being able to find a sense of humor in all of that was so critical. And I think for young adults especially, that's why many of us gravitate so easily toward, things that are humorous about the experience. I will say, though, my elderly folks that come to my cancer support group are hilarious. They make me look totally dull. They are amazingly hilarious. So here's one that I did about that. If you're under 50, I'd like you to try something. Get up early and spend your entire day in their nursing home. Not to visit anyone, but to hang out like you live there. Yep, just hang out and do everything the locals do. Apparently pass gas while eating. So chat with the residents or keep quiet, but stay close and let everyone just stare at you. Then get up the next day and do it again and again. And eventually you'll get an idea what it feels like to be a patient at a cancer center who is under the age of 50. Show of hands of some under 50 who can relate to this experience. Yeah. Yeah. Being able to sit there and I'm like literally less than half the age of everyone in there. People being wheeled in and everything and staring at me like, what are you doing here? It is a wild experience. So I want to break here for a moment and get to see some of the polls and like where we're at with some of these questions. So, all right. Like I said, this is the most important question we will answer. You know what? Awesome. Wait. Now, wait. Hold on now. Come on. All right. Well, seeing as though I'm not great at math. Let's see. 40. We got 56%. Say wait. Whoa. See, I haven't been this held in suspense since watching the last presidential race. Let's see here. All right, it's in. Owls absolutely rule. They are the world's greatest animal. I think we have decided this today. Not that I'm surprised. If people ask me, they're like, why you draw an owl, you know? And yeah, I'll get into it just a little bit more, but I mean, they're just awesome. Like, I love owls. I've always loved owls, and they're awesome. So let's take a look at some of the other questions. Have you read Cancer Owl before? Oh, okay. All right, good. Well, hopefully we could change that, right? And I will hand you when you guys leave today. I mean, I have a bunch of free prints I want to give you. It has the website on it, and I will even do a little bird portrait of you if I have time. So, yeah, yours is on the table. Yeah, so I will doodle a little bird portrait over you, or at least get you an autograph. So awesome. How about the next one? What age were you when you or your loved one, when you were first diagnosed? Wow. See, I was 35, I mean, 35. Wow. Okay, we're looking mostly here at 30 to 40. And then the other one is 40 plus. Wow, and I'm still startled at the 20 to 30. Whew. That is a lot. Goodness gracious. Yeah, but 30 to 40 is the majority of who I interact and talk with as well. But I've definitely met more in the 20 to 30 range, and Diana, he was what 19? Well, we were at our we were a part of the Colon Club magazine, and we had someone who was like 19.
He was 20.
He was 20 at the time.
And 21, I think.
Okay, I couldn't remember if he was 19 or 20.
We did have somebody 19 the following year. She was diagnosed when she was 19.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So the following year, someone was diagnosed at 19. Okay. Let's look at the next question. Let's look at the stage. So the majority in here saying either 20 to 30 with 30 to 40, and wow, that's startling. That is so startling. I was a stage 2, as Dr. Ing said. Wow, stage 3 and stage 4 by a mile. Goodness gracious. Let's take a look at the next slide. This is one that was on my heart. I feel like I can talk to others about my cancer experience. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that more, that more of you feel that you can. But I can't tell you how many write me. I've just gotten so many messages and emails over the years of people telling me they don't feel like they can talk about it to their families. They don't feel like they can share it. Something they feel like they got to keep like a literal secret, except for maybe a tiny few that I have to take them to appointments. I've just been startled at the amount of people that do, not feel like they could talk about it. But I'm glad to see this room in here is really, you're open. You feel like you can talk to them about it. I think we have one more. What's one thing you'd like your friends, family, or the world to know about your cancer experience that you feel they don't already know? One here was the amount of time it takes. Maybe some other answers. This one requires you to type a little bit. But while we're waiting for those, I know that one thing I've had a lot of people tell me over the years is loneliness. Yeah, the emotional toll. Yeah, how scary it really is. Absolutely. Not to treat me different. Yeah, that's a huge one, right? Just because I have a bad day doesn't mean I am giving up. I am human, and I have to deal with things in my own time. The uncertainty of everything. They need to get support and coaching about how to support me. Wow. Yeah. People get scared and run away. And I will tell you that is an initiative I'm starting to do at the practice I work at. I work with a large team of therapists and counselors, and I'm being asked to actually teach them how to work with people with cancer, because a lot of them don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. When I bring up cancer, almost everyone in our meetings gets like dead quiet. I'm like, come on, guys. I'm like, that's just got to change. You guys got to get comfortable with working with people with cancer. So worrying it'll come back. I am still me, not just a cancer patient. Your problems matter and are not less. Being and feeling positive with my new normal. How many ways it affects my life, from stress to fertility to work to social life. Yeah, the fertility one is one that you don't think about until you're there. There are reasons I have one child. Yes. That point got cut off. So not everything is about me. Let's talk about other things other than cancer. Hallelujah. I totally get that one 100%. Yeah, we all know the look, right? The, what is it? So how are things? Meaning, let's talk about cancer.
Yeah.
It's like, actually, can we, talk about Game of Thrones or, something like that? Maybe even argue about politics for once. I don't know. Maybe just not talk about cancer. Being positive doesn't cure cancer, nor do essential oils or chaos. Hallelujah to that.
I didn't say that it wasn't me. I have totally said
Be
it.
on board with the ways I want to change my life. I like that one a lot too. Be on board with the ways I want to change my life. Because there's a lot of people have a lot of opinions, right, about how we're supposed to deal with this thing, how we're supposed to go about it. We're supposed to, do this or do that, or we get all the messages about juicing cancer away and all the fun stuff. All right. So looks very good. Thank you, guys. And again, if you have questions, this is a good time too. You could put some questions in a little bit. I'll do some Q&A and answer some of your questions like toward the end. So awesome. Thank you so much. So step 3, be born again. Like I said, this kind of goes in tandem with the new normal. So for me, it wasn't just about, okay, dealing with this thing. It's like, how do I embrace this new normal? Like, not just say, okay, I have a new normal, but how do I embrace it? How do I move on? What do I do with this? And so this photo is a very special, important photo to me. It's one I look at often because I had an absolute night of hell right before this got taken. It was awful. I was up all night, and I had my resection. I had a brand new ostomy bag on my abdomen. I was just hiccuping like crazy from all the gas and air in there, and had just hiccup it all out, and I just didn't sleep. And I was just walking up and down the halls, miserable. But I felt amazing by the next day. It was like something clicked, and so I made this drawing. So you see me actually working on my very first drawing, which was this. It says, "You, sir, are born again. Here's to new beginnings." And my daughter did her little sketch on top with some blue pencil. But that is like what that's literally how it felt. It was just like I felt I was renewed and I was exhausted, but I went and I started to make this little drawing. And here's the very first owl I drew right after that picture. It just sort of clicked. Here he looks almost like a little gremlin or devil or something. But that was the very next page that I did. And then it just happened. I'm like, this is how I want to share my story. This is how I want to talk about this. So let's talk about the comic. I want to share with you a series of these, and just so you can get an idea. So when I first started the comic, it was just to talk about my experience. It was really therapy for me. In fact, I had a hard, fast rule. I said, if it's not therapy for me, it wouldn't be therapy for anyone else. And in fact, my therapist, who was so staunch about self-care, he was just like, look, it's like, do it for yourself first. He's like, don't do it for anybody else, just do it for you. And later on, it can be a benefit to somebody else. So I took his advice, and it worked out really well. So I just started making a series of comics. And some of them one panel, some of them many panels. None of them have an exact form. It just depended on whatever I was feeling. I really didn't care. I'm like, this is my comic, darn it. I'll draw it however I want. I'll say whatever I want. Because what's to stop me, right? So dealing with cancer is a crazy, hard, weird, confusing, effed up time. And I can be crazy, weird, and effed up to deal with sometimes. And I know you don't know what to say. And honestly, I don't know what I want to hear. So I guess I just want you to hug me. Just kind of expressing some of those crazy emotions that we feel. Because we all say, well, man, people are saying this and then people are saying that. But if we slow down, we can be honest. We're like, yeah, we're kind of contradicting ourselves over what we want. Because we don't always know what we want or what we want to hear. And so, you're already familiar with the owl. But then I started to draw, this is cancer. So a lot of people want to express, and this is going to be my workshop later about what's called externalization. You learn to externalize your experiences rather than own them. So you're not like, I'm cancer. You learn to say, I deal with cancer, or I have cancer. And there's a lot of therapeutic ways you can do that. One way to do it is literally drawing things like that. So I'm like, how do I want to draw cancer, right? Cancer needs to be a character. So sorry, hipsters, but I'm just saying, it's annoying hipster roommate was my inspiration.
Oh my God.
He's the guy that just never shuts up. He just never is quiet, ever. And I have a comic later I'll share about that. But for me, that's how I best express cancer. It wasn't some big beast. It was just an annoying roommate who never shuts up. He's the guy kind of going, actually, yeah, I'm feeling good today. Actually, a lot of people feel good. And, then but then they find out they're stage 4. Or it's like, wow, now I'm eating a vegan diet. I think maybe I'm helping with prevention. Actually, there's been some study. Just cancer never shuts up. So to me, that's why he wears a fedora and all that good stuff. So here's a little bit of him. So here's how he talks. Ooh, I'm so glad you're eating that. The internet said that it'll make me bigger. He's the worst kind of company, and he loves to talk. Did you see the look on your doctor's face? She thinks I'm winning. Just constantly, right? Never shuts up. And I think that's one of the hardest parts of cancer. It's like, gosh, can I take a break from thinking about it sometimes? And then, So here's some new comments. This is an experience I had with chemotherapy. All right, feeling good. Where are you going? It's chemo. You sure ain't going to work today, that's for sure. There. I think we can all relate to that one. And this is another example of externalization. I've externalized my experience by turning him into a large troll who just weighs me down. And I never felt fatigue like that in my life. Just that, like, literally feeling like there is a weight on top of my body. It's the wildest thing. So here's one of my very first ones I did. So, how do I put this? The doctors came back with the results, and it turns out that I have cancer. That's how I see myself giving the news. But here's how others see me. So, I have cancer. Gasp. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Help me. Help me. I'm dying. I'm dying. Yeah, that was one of my very first ones. So, how I see my outlook on the illness. Stupid cancer, blankety blank cancer in the face. I will survive this thing and I will thrive. Bring it on. How others see me. Well, there we go. And this one is for my blue people today. This is one of my all-time favorites. This is something I post every year, so many of you are familiar. Well, here it is, the poster you asked me to make for Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. I took your advice and used what goes viral on the internet. I'm not sure that's what I meant, but I can't stop looking at it. We're going to save some lives, man. Well, this one was really, really inspired by the idea that I'm like, man, like October and, everybody wearing pink, they get all the attention, and there's just so much, there's so much attention. And colorectal cancer, even though it's high in the rise of deadly, as we heard about earlier, like it gets so much less attention. I mean, who wants to talk about butts, right? I mean, like, maybe, nobody wants to see like some sort of like provocative picture of someone with a sewn up rear end, right? I mean, so so I'm like, how do we get attention, So I had some people actually sharing that around just like a real meme, not even for the cancer, but just to like share it around. Like, they're like, yeah, this is what we got to do. You're right. So this one is one of my all-time popular ones, not just because it relates to cancer, but also because it relates to like depression. So you're lying down again. You're not going to beat cancer lying down all the time. Why are you working? You need to be staying at home and resting. All right, feeling good, ready to kick ass. Wait, you don't always have to be putting up a front. You can be real and honest with us. I just have to be honest. My life just sucks right now. I just want to stay home. Why the negative attitude? You need to stay positive if you're going to beat cancer. That one has rang a bell about more than any of the other ones. I had people say, well, why limit it to cancer? That's depression. That's chronic illnesses of all kinds. I'm like, I 100% agree with that. So this next one is my first one to ever go viral. Like, it shocked me because I didn't think anyone would care about this one. The ones that went viral the most are ones that, like, I really didn't think would, which is just the nature of art, I guess. But this one, I was really... And this is inspired by getting so annoyed with Hollywood and media treatment of cancer. I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like, I'm like, my running joke is like, if you are a cancer patient in a movie or a show, you're going to die. You're going to lose your hair and you're going to die. That is your destiny. If like you happen to wake up and you find yourself in a Hollywood movie and you're the character, you're like, say goodbye. That's it. There is no exception to that rule except for one movie called 50-50. And the only reason that one was accurate is because it was written by a cancer survivor. So we'll move on. So this one is having cancer according to Hollywood. It's okay, my child. This one's inspired by Forrest Gump, Mrs. Gump at the end. It's okay, my child. You can come closer. I'm going to be remarkably clear-headed and soft-spoken while I tell you about how precious life is and give you inspirational advice that will change you forever. Live your life, child. Live your life. This is cancer according to reality. You, child, I can't find my chemo pills. Have you seen my pills? I don't know where anything is. Why are you standing there? What's your name again? Did you take my pills? My brain is like mush, and I can't find my... What am I looking for? That yawn? I don't know. Man, when I was still working as a therapist full time, I was going through treatments, and I felt terrible for my people because I'm like yawning like crazy. I'm like, it's not you, I promise, I'm fine. You're fine. You're not boring me. It was like this yawn reflex. Anybody relate to that? The yawn reflex? Yeah. It's just like, oh my gosh, can I stop yawning for a moment? So as I became cancer-free and finished treatments, I found I could only do so many comics about my story. Like, that's the thing about creative inspiration is some creative inspiration feels infinite, and then others, has a shelf life. And I always knew starting these comics, it would have a bit of a shelf life because my treatments were 1.5 years. So, at the end of the day, I'm like, I can only do so many stories about that period of time. And I've done over 100 of them. So I'm like, it's time to, that. And I chronicled through journaling. I did so much on the topic about my own experience. But I was like, it's time to kind of move on because I started having different people asking to be a part of the comic, like to share their stories. So I'll go ahead and start to show you that I decided to start telling other people's stories. That was like, I told my wife, I'm like, I need to start doing some of these stories everybody's sending me. I'm getting like hundreds of them. And I couldn't possibly do them all. But here's one that I got that I love this one. So I just started back at my old cashier job at Lowe's. And this 40-something guy walks up to my register. Nice haircut you got there. I laughed a little. Yeah, thanks. Kids like you trying to make a statement don't make sense. Just makes you look like a boy. I didn't say anything. Why didn't I tell him that I had cancer? I could have made him feel so ashamed. Next time. And I heard, though, that this is just like working at Lowe's in general, that people at Lowe's are terrible. I don't know. I mean, not people working there, but people that go to Lowe's. I have people that wrote me from Lowe's. Like, I work at Lowe's, and people are awful. Like, the customers are terrible. I'm like, okay. I guess it's a Lowe's thing. No, I don't know. So for this one, I'd like my friend Diana to come on up. Because this person you're seeing up here is actually... She's here today. This is actually her story, and I thought, what better fitting than for Diana to read her story? And can you see the screen okay?
Yeah, should have brought my reading glasses.
And you can look up there if you need to.
Okay.
Whatever works.
This is based on an experience. A lot of my friends, I post-travel with Fred. Fred is my colostomy name, flatulent Fred to be exact. And this occurred going through an airport, actually going to meet my friend Matt at the Colon Club when we became Colon Club brother and sister.
That's right.
I've had a colostomy for 2 years, affectionately known as Fred. The biggest change since having an ostomy bag is the TSA love fest I experience now. It's a given that I'll be tested for explosives because of Fred. Every single flight. In addition to that, there's usually the dumping of my luggage. In yet another frisk, one TSA agent told me to hold on to my belt loops. She proceeded to shove her hands down my shorts all the way around my waist. I'm glad she told me to hold on to my belt loops because there might have been indecent exposure at the airport that day. Then on my way back, I had my normal frisk and swab, but my luggage was pulled. Again, they took every ostomy supply and dumped it out and swabbed it all. So if you see me hanging out with my pals at the TSA, I promise I'm not shady. Okay, hands in the air. Having Fred just makes me very popular.
It's one of my all-time favorite submissions for obvious reasons. Yeah, telling these stories gave a much bigger picture here. That, and I'll get to that in just a bit here. I'm going to start wrapping up, but I wanted to share this. The fella on the right, actually, his name's Mark McIntosh. He passed away not terribly long ago. I think we're going on a couple of years now. And his wife, Sandra, she was not able to be here today, but she submitted this story, and with her permission, I'm going to read this to you. As she wrote about him, we labeled this Buckets. This may be my husband's last Christmas, but we're celebrating like it's his first. We're busy making memories and taking pictures along the way. Every time we learn of another friend, group of people, or foundation has acted upon a bucket list item, it's like sitting under a Christmas tree and excitedly opening a beautiful gift. With each bucket list item that we check off, my heart swells and I dwell on the fresh memories photographed in my head. I see Mark as if there's no cancer and he's strong and well. He's smiling ear to ear with sparkles in his eyes. Mark ran onto the field of the New York Giants and threw a football around with the players. Mark easily contains his feelings, but his eyes and smile have always told stories. I see huge dreams that, even if for a few hours, take the cancer and darkness away. When I'm a part of such a memory and moment, I too am able to smile and forget. It helps the memories get in. So your story matters, is what I've come to learn. Yes, it started out with my story, but my story wasn't just for me. It was for others as well. And what came as a result was so many wonderful stories, both funny, some tragic, some heartwarming, that have come in its place. And I learned that this journey wasn't just about me. It was about all of us. So your story matters. You matter. And if anything I can share with y'all from my experience is that your story matters. And there's going to be societal things, and there's going to be like movies and media, and there's going to be things that will make you feel like you need to be quiet about it and be embarrassed. You know, and then you're dealing with all these like voices and all these things by yourself. It's such a load to carry. So what we find by sharing our story is that we find community with one another. And this is a comic I did about that for I Had Cancer. Dealing with cancer by yourself sucks. So I think you've got about 3 years. What do you think? Because I spread, you know. It's like what I do. Oh, I'm so glad you're eating that. The internet said it'll make me bigger. He's the worst kind of company, and he loves to talk. Did you see that look on the doctor's face? She thinks I'm winning, but I got more now. If you'll notice, something changing here. But something magical happens when you find someone else dealing with the same crappy company, and suddenly your world is less lonely. Cancer ceases to control the conversation, and you'll wonder why you ever thought it was a good idea to keep this damn disease to yourself. And then I wrote this. After I was diagnosed with cancer, I felt like I had something to say. And so I say it by drawing an owl with a cancer, orcs named Chemo, exploding ostomy bags, and Cancer himself wearing a hat. People get quiet when you say cancer. So those of us patients and survivors feel pressure to be quiet as to not offend. But your pain matters, your story matters, and there is someone who needs to hear it. So laugh when you want, cry when you want, yell, scream, go crazy, but never shut up. Never shut up. Ever. So I thank you guys so much for the chance to speak to y'all today and share my story with you. And I hope before we go today that I get to hear a few of your stories. And please take me up on my offer if I have a chance to maybe doodle a bird or two, turn you into a bird. I am going to be talking about how to externalize a little bit more and giving you guys the opportunity to do that too. So please join me in the breakaway session and come tune with me. And so I know we are really crammed on time. So for Q&A.
So we're going to save the Q&A either to join Matt in his breakout session, which is right now, or he also has a table in the Resource Expo at lunch, so feel free to go up to him then.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.